Putin ties himself to war crimes in Ukraine. Today you will watch how angry Russian woman destroys Putin's propaganda stunt. Hello there, I'm Elena, welcome back to my channel Enough of Propaganda. Please like, subscribe, share my videos, let's make truth available for everyone. And by the way, I am that angry Russian woman. I am really angry. Today we will talk about press conference which Putin just held in Russia. And some of you who are my subscribers for a long time will tell me, hey Elena, you told us that you shouldn't listen to Putin at all. He always lies. What's the point? I agree with you. And I didn't watch all that 4.5 hours of that nonsense. But the pieces I saw is plenty and enough. And this time we have to put attention to what happened. And I will explain you why in a few minutes. I want to highlight that on December 19th, the same day Putin held his year-end press conference, annual kind of thing, when he bragging about his achievements, except in 2022 when he was too scared to show up his face to the Russian people. At the same day, Russia lost the biggest amount of people. 2,200 soldiers were lost, dead, wounded, and missing in action. And Putin had, during the whole conference, that kind of happy face, kind of like on this picture. I want to highlight some things, for example, like this, which nobody put too much attention to. Watch what is happening right now. Behind Putin is the flag. So basically, the Russian dictator held a press conference, and the flag of the 55th Separate Guard Brigade of Naval Infantry, notorious for its atrocities and horrific war crimes, was prominently displayed behind him. The flag bore signatures from soldiers of this infamous unit. The brigade has become infamous for its involvement in the killings of Ukrainian civilians in Bucha, Irpin, Hostomel, the recorded executions of Ukrainian prisoners of war, and the barbaric act of mounting several heads of Ukrainian soldiers on poles and posing with them. And Putin happily posed with this flag. The 55th Brigade has been annihilated several times during the war, first in Kyiv region, then near Vuhledar, and now in Russian Kursk region. According to the BBC, the brigade has lost 80% of its personnel since the conflict began. So these are not honorable soldiers capable of fighting with dignity. They are a group of losers and sadists. Just look at his happy face. Very happy. And proud of himself and of his barbaric soldiers. By posing in front of the flag of that 55th Brigade, Putin openly acknowledges his guilt and personal responsibility for their crimes. This is a gift to the International Criminal Court. You're welcome, Putin, to the Hague. This is what we need to say. Another thing I want to point out. Putin started this war apparently because he was bored. This was something I was saying all along. That the guy was the richest man on the planet. Or just about. He had palaces, yachts, anything he wanted. But no, he was bored apparently. And he decided how exciting to watch about 1 million people dying just because you snap your fingers.
Знаете, когда у нас все спокойно, размеренно, стабильно, нам скучно. Застой. Хочется движухи. Как только начинается движуха, все свистит у виска. И секунды, и пули, к сожалению, и пули сейчас свистят. Так нам страшно. Ужас, ужас. Ну, ужас. Но не ужас, ужас, ужас.
I will explain a couple of things nobody else did. Number one, he used the word движуха, which is modern day slang. It wasn't in his time, or wasn't even in mine. And I'm much younger than Putin, so it means kind of action, movement of some sort. So he was bored. That's why he decided to start the war. He had everything and he decided this is not enough. I'll snap my fingers and see how the idiots will run with rusty machine guns on the field and dying for me. Good one. This is he just clearly insane. Normal people would never do that. What kind of idiotism is this? He was bored. Движухи. He wanted движуха. He wanted movement. He wanted action. And for that, already over 750,000 only Russian people were dead, wounded, and missing in action. Good one. Another thing many people didn't explain when he said whistling like a seconds by your temple or by bullets whistling by your temple. This is the words from a song. And the song was from the movie about Russian spy in Nazi Germany. So he's comparing himself to Stirlitz, the famous Russian spy from the movies. Who that little dwarf is thinking he is? Stirlitz? I don't think so. Another important thing is the proposition of so-called duel.
Пусть они предложат нам, и пусть предложат тем на Западе и в США произвести некий такой технологический эксперимент, ну, скажем, такую высокотехнологичную дуэль 21 века. Пусть определят какой-то объект для поражения, скажем, в Киеве. Сосредоточат туда все свои силы ПВО и ПРО, а мы нанесем туда удар орешником.
This is unbelievable. He's having fun, proposing a duel. And nobody pointing out that this type of stuff people are doing from weakness, not from the position of strength. NATO countries, especially United States, can wipe out most of Russia and put it into darkness in the Stone Age without using any nuclear weapons whatsoever. The strong leaders of strong countries, they don't need to threaten the world. The fact that Putin just did, this is, and especially in such a words, this means he is weakest ever. He is very, very weak. I have a video, Wagner versus US Army, when it happened in Syria, when the Wagner soldiers were wiped out just like a dust. And this is what happened when Russian army face a real army of NATO. And this is why strong armies and NATO, they don't need all of this. The fact that Putin does that just now, it's about weakness, not about strength. And Putin just showed the whole world, first of all, that he's absolute immoral war criminal, which normal people already know. But another thing is, he is weak. I like this comment in particular. It is immediately obvious that Putin is a security officer, I would translate it a KGB officer, and not a military officer. He suggested holding a duel in Kyiv and choose Oreshnik as his weapon, and the West should defend itself with its air defense. But what if the West, in response, suggests a duel in Moscow and chooses the Tomahawk as its weapon, and suggests that Putin defend himself with the Panzer? That would be an interesting idea, wouldn't it? Another big mistake I want to point out is that Putin allowed real independent journalists, at least very few of them, from abroad, to be present on a press conference and even ask questions. So this is the NBC journalist humiliated Putin in front of the whole Russia.
Mr. President, you have failed to reach the objectives of your special military operation. Large numbers of Russians have died, including a general assassinated here in Moscow this week. And the leader of Syria, who you supported, has been overthrown. Mr. President, when you face President-elect Trump, you will be the weaker leader. How do you propose to compromise? What are you going to offer?
Bravo, NBC. This is so whole Russia, and in front of the whole world Putin was humiliated. This is spot on. And the only thing I disagree with, the journalist called Putin president. Putin isn't president. Putin is usurper. We did not have legal elections in Russia for decades, if ever, after Yeltsin. So Putin is not Russian president. It's illegal. His illegal regime is usurping power in Russia. I want to tell you a couple things from my own past. For example, Christmas is coming, which is in Russia, the bigger deal is New Year. And during New Year, in Soviet Union, for example, and in Russia, when they were proclaimed to be non-religious, trying to squash religion and so on, so they need to replace it with something. So they replaced Christmas with New Year celebration. They also, kids would have a tree and so on. and Дед Мороз and Снегурочка will come to them. Дед Мороz is Grandpa Frost, or basically Santa, and Снегурочка is a snow girl, his granddaughter. And they will bring gifts to the children and so on. This is how we grew up. We waited for it, and we were very happy. We had parties at the Christmas tree and so on. But for us, they were bringing us gifts and so on. This is even in the USSR, where I grew up. It wasn't Stalin times, of course, because I'm not that old. But it was happy, fun time, kind of like Christmas here. This year, instead of Grandpa Frost and Снегурочка, ugly goblin Putin coming to children, they forced to watch his press conference, which was 4.5 hours. I'm not sure how long they watched. Some children, for example, in Dagestan was forced to watch Putin. According to current time, in one of the kindergartens in Kemerovo region came Grandpa Partisan, which is like during the World War II, when some territories were captured by the Nazi Germans, people went to partisans, so kind of like people who fight in Germans, not regular army, but the rebels, basically. Kids were dressed up in military uniforms. Grandpa Frost was dressed up in military uniform. There is no Снегурочка unless these teachers are kind of represent her or something. And he brought children a piece of bread and a lump of sugar as a gift. Good one. And this kind Grandpa Frost, not as much giving gifts to children, he taking gifts from children to send it to the front to the soldiers. This is unbelievable. I haven't seen it in the USSR even when I grew up. I never thought I'm gonna live to see this day. During New Year, we were wearing costumes and stuff like that. We could dress up like anybody in the USSR. In modern day Russia, they now sending information to parents. The children only supposed to be dressed up as the heroes of Russian fairy tales. You can dress up as a Spider-Man or Zorro, which is very popular was in the USSR and Soviet Union. So they kind of forbidden. You can't dress up as a foreign, I don't know, Disney character or anything like that. But the worst of all, Stalin Center apparently exists in Barnaul city, and they have a Christmas tree, or New Year tree I should say, with a portrait of Stalin and a full figure of Stalin standing by this tree. It is more than that. Maximum what we could say, and it wouldn't be on the New Year, we could say winter go away, in spring. These children in that Stalin Center on their party, they kicking out Бармалей либерал, bad guy liberal.
Прогоним Бармалея? Да! А нужен ли нам либерал? Нет!
Will we kick out Barmaley? Yes. Do we need a liberal? No. This is the life in a dictatorship, as it is. And I lived in USSR. I have never seen that before in my life. And I thought I never will. So, Putin stole not only happiness from Ukrainians and their lives and so on, but he stole happiness from Russian children as well. And these children who are celebrating Stalin are future cannon fodder for Putin's future wars. This guy will not stop. We need to stop him. He is raising children even worse than we were raised in the USSR, and the USSR was a threat to the world. Now Russia is the threat to the world. Another thing Putin said, it was about compromise. This is Russian compromise. During the same time, Russia shelled Kyiv, and this is what happened. This is what Russia is doing to Ukraine for 10 years, and most important and hardest in the last 3 years after the full-scale invasion. This is capital of Ukraine, Kyiv. This is Russia destroyed beautiful church in Kyiv. And many other churches in Ukraine destroyed by Russia. Here's to every Christian abroad who are thinking for some reason that Putin is some sort of a Christian leader of a Christian country. This is not true. Putin is a KGB officer. He was KGB officer. He still is KGB officer in his head. So this is what they do. Destroy churches and getting rid of religion. Putin is not religious. Forget that story. This is a lie. This post is from Mayor of Kyiv Klitschko. He is saying that Kyiv this morning, and like every morning, and for almost 3 years our morning routine has been one of the morning. We must stop this savagery and neutralize Putin's Russia now. I agree with Klitschko and with this sign. If Russia stops fighting, there will be no war. If Ukraine stops fighting, there will be no more Ukraine. And everything I posted until this point in my videos on my channel proving this point. So please help Ukraine to stop Putin. Putin must go to Hague as a war criminal he is. And Russia must be stopped. And for that, we need to help Ukraine as much as possible. Thank you for watching. Learn the truth and stay informed. See you later.